All right. It's 4 o'clock on Thursday. You know what that means? It's time for the Real Estate Happy Hour.
It's the hottest hour on Facebook.
Man.
I think nationwide.
Nationwide at 4 o'clock.
And I think at least in Iceland and some other countries, we're number one.
Absolutely. Hey, you picked a song today, and it's very apropos.
Who's it?
It's Christopher Cross.
Christopher Cross.
Sailing, baby.
Hey, you got to love it, man. We are, in about 48 hours, we're going to be heading
to
Fort Lauderdale.
The Real Estate Happy Hour show is going on a cruise.
The 100% of the show is heading to Fort Lauderdale for a cruise.
Absolutely. We don't even need these lights and all this production equipment. You know why? Because we're going to have a great time, and we're bringing you with us.
It's going to be miracles.
Miracles. It's going to be incredible. We do have a drink package, so that's good.
Of course.
We do have all the food we can eat. What else do we need?
Yeah, free dinner.
Man, you talk about a guy, Christopher Cross, has lived off of just a few songs. This is the one from Trading Places.
Now, is this the first shot from the Real Estate Happy Hour page?
Yes, this is the first live show from the actual Facebook page. We've always posted there and that sort of thing. So we're coming live. And
there we go.
Melanie Fizel, first one.
Melanie Fizel. She's champion.
She is. She's great. All right. Hey, big win. Right. NCAA tournament started today.
Man, Auburn took it to the wire. I'm telling you, this tournament is exciting, but Auburn went to the wire. I mean, they even fouled a guy, gave him 3 shots to win the game. I mean.
And they missed 2 out of 3.
Crazy.
I mean, Bruce Pearl said it best when he said, it's called March Madness basically for a reason.
Exactly. And Auburn plays a style of basketball where they are run and gun, they are shooting threes, and if they stop falling, then they could be suspect for an upset. But look, they pulled it out. That's going to help Auburn, though. I tell you, moving on, that's going to help Auburn.
Having that adversity?
Yeah, having that close loss. Because I saw them after the game, and they were frustrated. They were mad
you
that
could see it in their face.
Yeah.
That we just get, because I really think they thought they were going to walk in.
That's exciting. Murray State has, I know I'm going to mess up his name, but he's the 3rd NBA prospect. So Murray State.
Third ranked prospect or whatever.
Yeah, they're like a 12 seed.
Right.
Houston looks like they've been on a good run. Texas Tech. I'm just pulling this up from looking at the bracket. Wofford. A lot of good teams.
Yeah, who's that team I have going to the Final 8, the Elite 8? I have one, not Wofford. It may be Wofford. I think it is. They're good. I mean, a lot of wins. But now, aren't you getting, I don't know how much you follow it, but the Duke player.
Zion.
That's all they're talking about. I mean, is this guy that good?
He's amazing. I don't think once he gets on a roll and once they get in a rhythm in this tournament, because he sat out the last 3 weeks before the ACC tournament. Now, the last game in the tournament I know was close. They could have lost at the buzzer. But, I think once he gets in rhythm on a roll, future NBA, he'll be an NBA All-Star. They'll win.
Well, he's only 18, I believe, so he'll be making a ton of money. But
and Melanie is, I think Melanie's into a new card game. It's called Poochie.
Is it? Wow.
Yeah.
There's a lot of rhymes there.
It's pretty interesting. Look that up, though. It's a good game.
Now it's like Pouchet. Yeah.
In France.
Man. Hey, did you, speaking of real estate, because that's why we're here, talk about real estate. Did you see this article from the Wall Street Journal about a guy and his HOA have gone at each other to the tune of over $1 million?
Yeah, this is drug out in the courts to where I'm inferring that they have spent in legal fees.
That's exactly what.
Just dragging this out over $1 million between the two sides.
All over a decorative, those around. What would you say? Flower beds? Those probably. What did they say here?
They're like
shin high
flower bed walls.
Walls, right?
Yeah.
Just going around, and I believe it was concrete or something like that. Didn't look bad. Maybe I couldn't see it. Yeah, no, we could see it, and it didn't look bad.
No,
but yet they're willing to, because the HOA president said, "Hey, if we don't enforce it,
they're going to bat."
Yeah.
Now I thought I did read in there that another neighbor said the HOA is a little ridiculous.
I mean,
is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the deals was they wanted him to. They told the guy he would have to put his satellite dish right in the middle of his yard, right in the middle, so it'd be right in the middle of the house. and didn't want to offer a alternative solution.
Yeah.
Nothing. But the fact that a HOA would be this naive and stupid, and the fact that this guy's so stupid that he has spent more in legal fees than his house cost.
Right. I mean, obviously the guy's got some money to burn, and he's challenging this, but
and by the
unbelievable.
way, we should say that this is in Olathe, Kansas, Olathe, Kansas.
Okay.
I was calling Florida when I saw this. So, because everything's crazy in Florida.
Well, I think it is a retirement community, I believe.
Yeah, so I really did think it was, but, you know you're rich when you can just throw $500,000 or more.
Yeah, when you can waste $500,000 on an HOA lawsuit.
Now, this next story is going to make you very happy.
The Keurig K-Cup. So this is InBev. Now, okay.
Along with
Keurig. So
Keurig.
InBev and Keurig are trying to come together to make like these K-Cups. You know the coffee cups, the Keurig coffee cups?
Yeah, that you push down, you one cup.
Yeah, one cup at a time. They're trying to bring this with alcohol to the cocktail world, right? So
you don't have to worry about. I think the key is so many of us, if you're making a cocktail, is how much do I put of this? How much do I put of that? Not any. You don't have to worry about it.
When I read this article, I saw that Budweiser or InBev is struggling with Budweiser and Bud Light sales, which I still think is interesting with the economy and all of the craft brews and the commercials that they've had, things like that. I still think it's interesting that Budweiser is really struggling on Budweiser and Bud Light sales.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we've talked about it before. That a lot of these microbrews and local things have bit into them.
When the economy's doing well and people have money, they spend.
I don't see anything wrong with Bud Light.
Beers.
You like all the fancy stuff, but no. What was interesting was these K cups for the average cocktail will cost about $4 a piece. They'll be sold in packs of 4 for what did they say? $16.
Yeah. Usually 4 and 4.
Yeah, by the way, I had no idea that Keurig is owned by Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, interesting.
Who knew? But it's pretty fascinating that it just goes to show you the ingenuity of America, right? That what I thought was a dead coffee maker, right? Because they lost a patent on it.
Yeah, and they're trying to come up with ways to lock it so underage people can't
I didn't think about that.
To it.
You have a 16-year-old almost. So
yeah,
you're
so obviously there's, or if you just stole, let's say you just stole a pack of these K-Cups out and just open them up.
Hey, Mom, I need your Keurig.
Or you just open them up and drink them, I guess. I'm sure.
Wouldn't it be powder? Wouldn't it be powder, though?
I don't have any idea. But
he said it is higher in price, obviously.
Yeah, so that's what they're working on, though, and it'll be interesting to see if this takes off.
Absolutely, and you hit it on the head, and we talk about it all the time. By the way, in case anybody's wondering, Missouri, Florida, California, the 3 culprits. Well, 2 out of those were the 3 culprits. Missouri in there, obviously, because of Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah.
So, interesting story. I mean, that's just fascinating.
St. Louis, Missouri.
Hey, by the way, have you ever been up there and take the brewery tour?
No.
It's phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
It's great.
That's awesome. Well, listen, interest rates. Okay, so yesterday the Fed came out and said that we are not going to raise no more rate hikes in 2019. Okay?
Fascinating.
Absolutely. Last summer, and we talked about this earlier today, last summer they were on pace for 2 to 4, I think. At one point they had 4 scheduled, and they had a schedule for the rest of 18 and all of 19.
And they were going. I mean, it was not stopping.
It didn't matter. I don't care what the economics say or what's going on in the economy, how well things are going. We are doing this on schedule, and this is what we're doing, right?
Yes.
And then around about September, October,
right in there,
late summer, whatever, Donald Trump,
yes,
just ragging on them, giving them grief about their stance and their, I guess their aggressive nature towards these rate hikes. Jim Cramer jumped on him at CNBC.
Larry Kudlow, who was the chief economic advisor.
Larry Kudlow. Several people started talking about the Fed and their stance and asking them to say, hey, you need to take a more of a wait-and-see approach. In November, they changed that and said, okay, yeah, we're going to look at the economics of the situation before we make any further rate hike decisions. Now, that was in November. The stock market responded well. Everything went screaming back up. Interest rates responded well. Everybody felt good about that sentiment. Now, yesterday, they're coming out and saying no more rate hikes on the table this year.
Yeah, right. And thank God, because they were screwing with the economy.
Yeah, so they pulled all that back. So hopefully we're going to get some break on rates. You know, I think we were somewhere around 3.7 on a 15-year.
So we're continuing to go down ever so slightly.
Yeah, about 3.7 on average and 4.2 on a 30-year. And that's an average. Now, obviously, that's a weekly average at Freddie Mac Mortgage Market Survey. So that probably doesn't factor in all of yesterday because it's a weekly average. But we're inching down, I think. And I think we might look at high threes again on 30-year fix.
That is crazy. If you're ever looking to get in now, you may not have a house you can find because at least in our market, it's hard to find because we're in such low inventories. But we can poach one out for you. But one thing you were asking about you were talking about the Fed. A lot of the stuff around the world is affecting our economy, and we forget about that all the time. And so those key interest rates that they're talking about, they didn't. I believe they didn't just look here in the United States. They looked. They don't want to get that spread around the world where we're so far ahead of the rest of the world because it is a world economy that we're in.
Yeah, and I think that was part of the argument that Donald Trump, Jim Cramer, Larry Kudlow was bringing up was the fact that we're focusing on the U.S. economy doing great, and you guys are not looking internationally. There's still problems internationally, and we can't overlook that stuff. It's more of a global economy now.
Well, I'm just looking at around me, and I just looked down at this pen. It was made in China, and we take that for granted that our economy is run. I bought these pens somewhere here in the United States.
Take it for granted.
But we take it for granted, and it really is true that so many of the parts now. Dumbest lawsuit that I've seen this week, because I try to see these dumb ones because he's fired up about this stuff. There's a class action lawsuit in California because a group of buyers, essentially of New Balance tennis shoes, is suing New Balance, and they're each going to receive $10 each because they made the statement, or New Balance did, that the shoes were made in the USA. Now, 95% of it is made in the USA. Some of the thread and some other things were imported. So they were offended that the whole shoe wasn't made in the USA.
That'll ruin your weekend.
Yeah. And to think, why are you wasting your time over? $10 is a lot of money.
That is definitely worth a $10 lawsuit. Now, hey, speaking of lawsuits, okay, just want to bring this back up real quick. Because obviously I get a lot of cruise ship news in my news feed. A guy was on the
Mariner of the Seas.
Yeah, bungee. It's like a bungee trampoline thing. He was doing like a backflip.
Like you do at Panama City, but in this case on a boat with a trampoline below him.
Yeah, flipped off of it. One of the straps came loose. He flipped off of it, broke his pelvis. Could be affected for the rest of his life, sued Royal Caribbean for $10 million.
Yeah. But, when you listen to that guy, though.
But let me put this in context.
Okay. I'll hold.
Nicholas Sandman sued CNN for $275 million on a story that's old news by the weekend.
Sounds like Sandman's got a better lawyer.
Sandman's got a much better lawyer. This other guy on Royal Caribbean might have his life ruined, and he's suing for $10 million. Sandman was what'd you call him? Slandered. He was slandered.
Yeah, he clearly
slandered. No physical harm done to the man.
But the problem is he hadn't done anything wrong. And the problem with the internet today is that every story for the rest of his life, when they Google his name, is going to say Nicholas Sandman racist.
No.
Well, let me say this about going back to this Royal Caribbean guy, the passenger, is if you look at his interviews, everything about it reeks to me of, because there's no question he was hurt, but he was helped. The staff was very helpful.
But I think just in general, I think he was a very athletic guy, and his life has changed now because of
a broken pelvis,
of a safety failure.
Hey, he can't shake it like Elvis.
Hey,
that's
look,
right.
That is much more valid than Nicholas Sandman, even though I think Sandman was wronged. I'm still on Sandman's side.
And you came around on Sandman.
I'm still on Sandman's side. It's just the
poor guy. Speaking, we keep saying, speaking of lawyers, look, we want to bring this to your attention because you're going to see it in the news and everything. The same lawyers that took on Volkswagen, Big Tobacco, there was a couple other big cases that they have filed in the past. They are gunning after the realtors, or all over around the country, not any specific group of realtors, and their class of plaintiff is anyone who had bought or sold a house in the United States.
Yeah, this is opening up a Pandora's box, in my opinion, if somebody gets behind this, because basically what they're saying is they're aiming at the realtors and their 6% commission, because realtors bring buyers, and the buyer's fee is kind of negotiated with the seller, and they're saying that this is not negotiable on the buyer side.
That's correct. They're saying that the seller is being forced to pay for a buyer to be represented, right? And while on its face there's truth to that, 1,000%, but a good agent also has a signed buyer agency agreement that says if the seller does not pay me, we have it. It says if the seller does not pay me, you're going to pay me.
Right.
Right? And on its face, it sounds, oh my gosh, I never thought about that. But the problem is, it did solve a problem. It's a very efficient way it is now. That, yes, you will pay for it. And quite frankly, most of you buy and sell. So, hey, you got a free ride on one side and you got another. And believe me, you are paying for that buyer agent as a buyer because that seller would have passed on those savings. Because if you follow me on that?
Yeah.
You could have gotten a better deal on that house, potentially, had he not had to pay.
Right, and I think there's some argument to the 6% number. But obviously, you need representation on both sides. And if you switch that, and I have seen it where the buyer picks up, in very rare cases, I've seen the buyer pay the real estate commission to the realtor. However, being on the mortgage side of it and looking at people's finances and looking at what people can qualify for now, if you add another few $1,000s in a real estate commission to the buyer side, that's going to hurt a lot of buying potential. Okay?
Well, you guys have limits too in which a seller can contribute.
So let's think about that as a seller, okay? So you hate doing this as a seller. Mm-hmm. So now you're going to force the buyer to come up with it. How many people are you knocking out of your buyer pool by doing that now?
Well, and don't you think we're going to start seeing then a buyer going, they have to pay $8,000 in commission. They're going to ask the seller to pay for the commission.
Exactly.
And the only people getting richer off this are the lawyers.
Look, I mean, right? It's got to come from somewhere.
Now, the big problem with this is, like I said, a guy I really respect, Rob Hahn, who's been in this business for a long time, said that this is a potential nuclear bomb for the industry.
Yeah, it could really rock that number, that 6% number that has been there forever.
And it doesn't matter one of the reasons I got out of the practice of law often was that it didn't matter that I was right on the legal side. All you got to do is convince a jury or a judge and
that somebody did wrong, right? So who's this helping? So if the sellers still have to come off their price, right, and now the buyer's paying for it, the realtor's still making their commission. Who is this helping? Really, because right now, the way I see it set up right now, I feel like you're going to be cutting into the buyer pool if you do this.
Well, and I think that you're with the wrong realtor if you don't see the value of a good agent. If you do not see the value, you need to switch agents or do it on your own. There's no question. I don't have a single problem with you trying to sell on your own or whatever. Statistics do not lie. You as a seller, if you go on your own by owner, statistically are going to get less for your house than with a buyer. The other issue they have is saying that all realtors will not show a for sale by owner house. That's just not true. We built our business over calling and establish relationships with for sale by owners because, look, we didn't know anybody when we started this over 12 years ago, right? And so you have to do something. So we were just friends with FSBOs, with for sale by owner people. And hey, it worked out. The thing is, this is not helping anybody, but
the lawyers.
And all you have to do is go, they talk about England and what was that, the other country? Not Ireland, but Australia. Iceland.
We are the biggest show in Iceland.
Probably so.
All right, moving on. 6 biggest screw-ups people make on their tax returns. Why? Because this is the end of March, and
coming up on April 15th.
we got a few weeks, huh?
We do. All right, here we go. This came from our friends over at CBS Market Watch. And, I was a former tax attorney, so don't necessarily take my advice in that role, because I'm now the co-host of a real estate happy hour show where we have big things of beer in our hands. So anyway,
show.
The gift that ends up taking charitable donations. We're really worried about this when down the road in an audit situation, you get audited and you put $100 in the church plate, a $100 bill because you were visiting a church, and then you go report that on your income tax. Theoretically, legally, you can't claim that on your taxes. Okay, it must be recorded.
What if I take a picture of it?
Yeah. Well, the question is, did you really leave it in there?
If I take a Snapchat of my donation,
yeah, Snapchat. But the problem with Snapchat is that it's gone.
And stock is up.
That is correct. All right. So keep receipts for all donations over 100, over 250. But really, for anything, make sure it's recorded. In other words, like you see at your church, they always send you an annual statement saying how much you donated. That's why to put it in the envelope, by the way. The little envelope that's...
well, that's why you write a check.
Well, that too. That's a good one, too. The next one, big one.
Who's writing checks anymore?
Well, who does that? I do. The rollover fumble. Speaking of... It's not even football season. Thank you, Mr. Arnette. So, let's say you left your job here in last year in 2018, and you had to roll from your 401k or your IRA over to a new rollover IRA. And you know what? You didn't do it right, or you waited too long, or you think you have to pay taxes. You don't have to pay taxes on the rollover if you do everything correctly, right?
On the rollover.
Right. And one thing that they talk about wanting to make sure you do is make sure you record that rollover in your tax return so that it's recorded that the rollover happened.
So you've got a 1099-R coming from the company, right? They closed it out.
Yep.
So you got to turn that in.
Well, it's being reported to the IRS. So the tax return kind of says, hey, I'm aware that I owe this. I don't owe it. I'm aware that this happened.
Right.
Because one thing I'll tell you is that, like, this year I had a IRA that was non-deductible IRA, right? You were talking about that earlier, right?
Yeah. While you're saying that, I do want to bring up the fact we did have a lunch and learn today with Breland Booth, with Booth Financial Planning.
Yeah, really good. Fantastic guy.
Today we had some realtors at the office and a great conversation. A lot of stuff about investment and retirement options for self-employed people. So it just made me think about that. Yeah, but, so I appreciate Breland coming over and doing that. So I just want to give him a...
Absolutely. Breland Booth. Anyway, what happened was I did a non-deductible IRA. I didn't know, but TurboTax at least made it really easy because since it was non-deductible, in order to record it, you still must record it into your return so that if they ever went back, they'd say, hey, what was your cost basis? How much did you spend there? We need to know. And so just make sure don't just put it in an IRA and not report it, is my point. You're not going to be taxed on that, but you're reporting it. And it's really easy. TurboTax makes it so easy.
Man, the next one is titled Home Cooking. What do we got here?
Well, don't forget about deducting those mortgage points that you have on your home when you bought the home. Now, one thing to remember is sometimes the seller may pay points on the mortgage.
Now, how does that work? If the seller, let's say the seller credits you for that point.
In other words, you still get the ability to write that off because it doesn't affect that seller, right? So somebody's going to get that credit, and it's going to be you.
It should be you. Also, the taxes that were prorated at closing when you sold a house can be deducted.
Don't forget about that. I think we all do because we've moved on. We've moved on.
Well, in the state of Alabama, real estate taxes are nothing compared to up north and other areas.
Absolutely, because we bill. Hold on, if you guys are from around the country, we're idiots in Alabama in billing arrears instead of so. In other words, we go backwards and go, last year to this year, we're going to tax that the following, and you pay the following year.
Clear that up in October,
But not our cities. Our cities bill in advance like the rest of you folks do.
All right, next one is boss of the house. One of the most common mistakes is unmarried folks filing as single taxpayers.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a big one because have you ever heard of the marriage tax penalty? Right?
No, yeah.
Yeah, it's a big deal. But thanks to Donald Trump and the tax cut and the new tax plan, far more favorable, far less of a marriage tax penalty because it didn't make sense. So you have a couple that wants to file for whatever reason separately, right? Or you even just wants to file separately. The penalty is not there. It's I forget the amount that they referenced here, but it was not much of a difference.
And this centers around filing as head of household rather than just single, right?
Well, that's another aspect of it too, is that oftentimes people forget that, say, an older child that you are paying almost everything for, you can qualify for that. Like, for instance, your daughter, right? If you were a single dad and you were out there and you were responsible for more than half of her income, you should be filing.
I'm out there.
Because you think of it as she's in college and away, I'm single, I'm by myself, I'm single, so obviously I file single. Well, no, you file head of household, you're going to get a much more favorable treatment. And you got to watch the deductibility of her status when she files a return. But hey, she's on daddy's money. She shouldn't have too much income.
That's right.
But just remember that there. And also, another big one is when you have a new child come into the family.
You cannot forget this one. I mean, and we got in our office, Lindsay Augsburger should be watching right now, but she's not. Brand new kid on the block.
Congratulations.
Couple of weeks, I think.
Well, don't forget to get that child a Social Security number as soon as you can. Make that application. Usually the hospital will help you with this. They have a little lady that comes around.
Get that child tax credit.
And here's why. That's correct. Especially if you have that child in March, April, and you haven't filed your tax return yet, you're gonna if you want to claim that tax credit, the child tax credit, or any deduction related to that, they must have a Social Security number. We can debate why they have Social Security numbers anyway. It's so they can track you down and all that, but different story.
Absolutely. Next is going to be I can't pay my tax bill.
Absolute big problem.
So don't make the mistake of avoiding April 15th. Let's still get the extension. Now, are you going to get any break on the money you owe?
Nope. And you're going to pay penalties. You still must pay everything you owe by April 15th.
But get an extension, though.
You won't get an extension on the actual payment.
Yeah, you'll still owe.
With a penalty.
But at least extend it, though,
Extend it so you don't have the penalty for non-filing.
Yeah.
But the key, I think, this article, and I'll tell you my opinion, is overpay if you have to, because you should be able to guess, right? You know what you owe.
Yeah, but we're saying in the case that you don't have money to pay the tax bill, at least get your extension file.
Do not avoid them.
Now when you do file an extension, you're supposed to file with that what you estimate your tax liability.
You're 100% right.
Yeah, what you're supposed to do. But at least get that file. Don't avoid it and think that it's just because you didn't say anything, they're not going to know.
They will find out. They are the Gestapo.
Let me tell you something.
They know.
They will get their money one way or another. I have heard of people, trying these tax schemes to avoid paying income taxes.
Doesn't work, and you might end up in the pokey.
It is.
You might be doing the hokey pokey in the pokey.
It is not going to work.
And don't forget about installment agreements. If you can't pay it, let me just say this about the IRS. The IRS, while the Gestapo and a lot of negative stuff, my experience with them has always been, if you'll just communicate with them, they're very fair, and they will work it out with you. Yeah, they just want their money.
Yeah, and I think it's roughly about 14% interest. I think.
Yeah, not bad considering a credit card.
Hey, it's not great, but look, if you're upfront with them about it, tell them, look, I owe you money, and I don't have it, so I'm going to pay you the 14% interest. Let's set up some payment plans. That's way better than waiting until late, 3 to 6 months down the road, and then.
David, you hit on a good point there. You owe that kind of money. One thing we've talked about it in the past is you may want to go to a lending club or one of those, where they crowdsource the borrowing, right, to get a loan, because a bank's not going to give it to you.
No.
But even if you have to pay a slightly higher interest rate, you can get the IRS off your back.
Yeah, but think about it. The IRS I think it's roughly 14% interest. So, if you have any credit issues, you're not going to get better than 14% on a personal loan.
Oh no!
So
no,
you
no.
might as well just take
if
your
you're in that
medicine.
situation,
Take your medicine with the IRS and fess up to it. So what do we got next? We got
well, we want to talk a little bit about the stock market.
a little bit about the stock market. So I'm sure the markets are looking good after yesterday's news.
Absolutely.
I'm just checking real quick. I'm going to try to see
where we were.
Boeing stock is still at 373 roughly.
It really hadn't moved since it went down.
The Dow's up to about 26,000, up 217 points today, which is a good day. The
Microsoft
S&P's
all-time highs, by the way. Microsoft, MSFT, big highs.
Snap hanging on to $11. Twilio, 136.
Hey, by the way, I want to remind everybody, we mentioned it to you at 111 a share.
VOO is the Vanguard S&P Index Fund, which is a great investment, 262. So anyway, I think a lot of good opportunities out there. I still think Tesla is a buy, down long-term buy. Okay, long-term buy. Boeing, long-term buy. They've had some trouble over the last week.
Boeing is folks. One lawsuit is not even a bruise on
Listen,
them.
if you saw the banks that were too big to fail.
Boeing is massive.
They are too big to fail.
Well, hold on. They are too important to fail, right? Our national security is at risk without Boeing. And I know that sounds like a broad statement. For crying out loud, your president of the United States, I don't care if it's Barack Obama, Donald Trump, flies on a Boeing jet. Half of those C-130s, all those type jets, or not jets, well, they're jet aircraft, but they're made by Boeing. They just have a different name.
Yeah, absolutely. So Boeing's not going anywhere. This is a discount on the stock. All the news just kept getting worse last week, and the stock held on to the lowest lows of Monday. Okay, Monday was when the news broke. 365 was low. It hasn't gotten back to that since. So I think anywhere in this range, 373, I think it is right now.
Right, and we were talking about it with the financial planner.
That sounds just like those guys on Fast Money.
Fast Money, buy.
I might need to send a clip and
will be huge there. Anyway, man, well, I was going to ask you what you're doing this weekend, but I know what you're doing this weekend.
Listen, we've got March Madness tomorrow, another long day of games, and then Saturday. Look, we are flying
sayonara.
Out to Fort Lauderdale. I'm going to Baltimore.
Yeah, this guy doesn't follow directions really well.
Baltimore first.
I told him what flight we were on.
I'm blaming that on Courtney, though.
Well, I told him what flight we were on. And I said, we're leaving in the morning.
Courtney's fault.
He didn't ask what time of the morning, and so he's headed from Birmingham, Alabama to Baltimore, Maryland. I'm going from Birmingham, Tampa, Fort Lauderdale.
I can't do it all.
Yeah. It's phenomenal. Hey, I hope it doesn't snow.
I cannot do it all.
I mean, hey, does she have your passport and all that?
No. I grabbed those.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. We will see you next Thursday from somewhere in the world, as our podcast says. Don't forget to follow us on the podcast. Well, you can find the podcast anywhere there's great.
We are the biggest deal in Iceland.
Where can you find the podcast? Anywhere there's great?
Pod.
That's right. So anywhere you got good pod, that would be Google Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, all that good stuff. Check it out, the Real Estate Happy Hour.
The Real Estate Happy Hour page.
Next week.
Next Thursday.
Aboard the Celebrity Edge, brand new ship. It's going to be phenomenal. We may see if we can
carpet.
Hey, I'm going to try to get some of your friends that you will inevitably have by Thursday.
Because I make them wherever I go.
Yeah. So he'll have it there. We'll see you next Thursday from somewhere in the world.
See you guys. Have a good weekend.
All right. See you later. Bye-bye.